choo-choo! What's that pulling up to the station? Why, it's not the motherfucking train. It's Lords of the Fallen for the PS4. This is on the PS4, Xbox One, and PC, so it's not exclusive to anything per se. But Lords of the Fallen is, for all intents and purposes, either a homage, inspired, or clone, depending on your point of view, of the Souls series. But I find it interesting, and I even mentioned it in the recordings of a Let's Play I'm Always Start of the game, that while I at first initially considered it very Western, it's interesting to note the people that made the game were actually from Poland. Polish. So, not so simply just Westerish. Depends on your terminology of Westernish, which usually is, for most people, usually if it's not Japan, it's Westernish. But I'm sure there's some arguments in that. But I did find it odd that it's actually not a American-based game or that. But anyway, Lords of the Fallen. First, the physical package. Nothing too special, though the game's not in there at the moment. It has the controls on the back. Oh, we're getting unfocused though. Apparently the blue fucks with the camera lens. It has the controls in the back. There's nothing interesting there. And it's just, what you would usually see in the PS4 cases for anyone interested randomly. They're the same size as the PS3 cases and that, so they're not tall or misshapen or anything. And I think that's a good course, because it saves some of the plastic, though. I mean, considering I've been doing dumpster diving, it's amazing how much plastic the fucking store wastes. What a worthless piece of shit place, I tell you. But anyway, on topic, Lords of the Fallen. While the debate on whether you want to consider it a Westernish game, either way, it's obviously not based from a Japanese company, though. So it has a very different artistic design to it. It kind of feels very Northern mythology-ish to me. The kind of direction, like the opening scenes, the big snowy wasteland and that, and there's a lot of outside snow areas in that so far through the game I've been, and it does have a lot of, obviously, heavy weaponry and that, night stuff and that, so it's not like it's some completely different setting either, but it obviously is a very differing art style. Now, the game, if you played any of the Souls games, you're going to immediately have one hole in this game. You're going to do a barrel roll, and you're going to always overcome the first challenge of learning the game. Because really, aside from a few little things in that, a lot of the controls in that work quite similar. And many of the mechanics, again, work quite similar. So I'm not going to go into big details if you're, I talk about a lot of the Souls games and that, so if you're a usual fan, I would assume you always get the gist of that. So I'm not going to re-roll into a whole lot of things and focus more on the things that are different or new ideas in the game. Now, some of the weaknesses I'd like to go over first is you don't have as much variety of what to start as, and you get to pick of one of three magics, and I have looked up whether you can learn more or not, and I'm finding conflicting information about that. Some information says you can, and others say you can't, but you can respec later. So I'm not 100% sure that. Each category only has, I think it's 4 spells per each of the 3 categories, which the 4th spell is the same in all of them. It's just what you gain from it is different. It's basically a fake decoy. And this is the first thing that's really disappointing about this game. If you loved all the different choices of magic and variety in the Soul series, if you want to just be a pure mage type character, you're not finding that in this game. This is, if you hate melee combat in the Souls games as much as humanly possible, you're not gonna like this because you're not gonna have the option to use a lot of magic, and it's very minimal magic. Now, I wouldn't say it destroys the game at all. I'm just saying, if you like being a pure magic build, there's not a lot to walk here. Even if you do, at some point, get all 3 types of magic. But of course, this being a first person, I haven't gone through the entire game. I've actually just been the 3rd boss so far in the game. Now, in the melee combat thing, there's a lot of familiar ground now. One of the weaknesses there, I'd have to say, is a lot of it feels kind of odd at times. Like, there's times where I'll roll, and like the enemy like teleports through me to the other side of me, and that. There's a lot of this weird kind of floaty movements at times. And the second boss has a lot of weird stuff. Like, there's times where he'll freeze in place in an animation, but it seems like he's still actually doing things, because he would trigger like one of his shield attacks and stuff while still looking like this, which would be why some people might sometimes find you not doing damage. So I would assume you're hitting his shield. So it's kind of odd there, and he also has that weird kind of floaty thing. But for the most part, it works a lot like Souls. You know, you can two-hand block and that. Now, one thing that's really interestingly different is with dashing, you know, you can do special attacks and stuff and that works in heal. But here's a little different thing. You can do a shield thing while you run. You can run and tackle an enemy with your shield, which you can't do in Souls games, and that's actually a little nice little change. That's interesting. There's some unique moments where, like, there's a dead end with an archer and a guy there, and you can like run up, bash the archer, and then take on the melee guy real quick, and then finish the archer off. There's a few interesting moments where that's useful. Very nice, and like the Souls games, there's a lot of hidden stuff in that. Now, what's also interesting, just like the Souls games, of course, when you die, it does not use the same terminology, obviously. I mean, even to the point where, like, your stamina is just referred to as energy, so they're literally avoiding any name comparison at all. But what essentially is your souls is just your experience in this case. Your experience is dropped, and you have to go fetch it. But unlike the Souls games, you're on a timer. Your experience will actually start draining and fading away until it actually even's completely gone. And obviously, if you got a lot now, that's bad, very bad. So you're actually on the timer, and it kind of puts a little more stress on you. It's like, I gotta get back there, quickly, I gotta hurry before they're all gone. Luckily, for the most part, usually takes a little while for it to start tickling. You're trickling away, but you'll see your 100% and how much experience you got there in the bottom corner, and you'll see it slowly dwindle away when it starts. Now, what's really interesting about this mechanic, besides the wanting to make you feel more stressful to go get it, is a mechanic of where you can actually use it to your advantage. Basically, when you get near your experience spot where you died, it actually heals you. It slowly regens your health, as long as it's there. So you could actually, like, if you're having a really hard time with a specific enemy or a boss, you could actually stockpile a bunch of experience and purposely die, and you could actually use that to help heal yourself to overcome a challenge. That's an interesting mechanic that, the player themselves could use to their advantage, or completely ignore by, picking up their experience of that. That's a very interesting little idea, though. I actually like that. I like that. The enemy variety in the game so far doesn't seem to be too wide or imaginary. There's spiders and shit, a bunch of weird guys who have, like, fire inside them and shit, and big evil, like, Lord of the Wings armor and shit. So, I'm not seeing a lot of expiring enemies so far. That part, but obviously it's still early in the game. Now, the story of the game so far is a confusing mess, to be honest. You're really not told a lot I mean, at this point, I still don't know a whole lot. But basically, Yokito apparently committed some horrible sin and was in jail and got taken out by a monk to go find somebody and to stop some invasion from these things that are in a completely another dimension. So right now, I'm actually in that dimension, a little pocket dimension of these things or something like that. But so far, a lot of the story hasn't been completely explained. You do get to find like little notes and pickets of scattered around the levels of that, of different characters who've been here before the events of this invasion from these things, talking about what's been going on and happening to people. So you get a little backstory of the area that way. But with your character so far, it hasn't been really explained so far. They're really leaving you in the clueless. You're just kind of watching these people learning through the events that's happening right now. Now, there are some bugs in the game. Like I said, combat is a little, it's not super tight. There's a lot of kind of looseness. I mean, it functions like a Souls game, but there's a lot of iffy kind of moments that, you know, it's not tightened to perfection. I mean, even the Souls games ain't perfect, you know. There are things they've had to fix too, but I mean, there's a lot more looser, tested kind of things in here. And apparently, originally, I want to throw this out there, apparently, originally when the game first came out, there was actually an error thing where the whole game would crash. Now, I got this game during Cyber Monday, and there's been a patch, and obviously my copy was patched. The PS4 apparently just automatically detects as a patch and just automatically starts installing and updates your system if you're not playing the game. So I already had the patch and everything when I was playing the game, and I have not experienced this. But throwing it out there, some people have experienced it. I'm going to assume the patch has fixed this, but I don't know for sure. I have not experienced this bug. I haven't really experienced any crucial thing going on, really, but it does feel like it's not fully polished, though. You know, it kind of has that weird floatiness to it. It's kind of hard to describe. It does have an odd floatingness to it, too. But so far, to be honest, though, I'm actually liking it, though. It's, you know, it's a different flavor of the Souls formula. But is it worth $60? Be honest, I'm glad I kind of actually got on a deal off Amazon for Cyber Monday. If you don't know, for Cyber Monday, it went for $30 on Amazon for just Cyber Monday. And this obviously was one of the games I wanted to initially get for the PS4. I mean, obviously, Bloodborne's the reason I got PS4. But, you know, this, as I've described, is a nice placeholder to wait for that. But I wouldn't say it's worth $60 for my played so far. Obviously, I usually leave that to my reviews when I get to that, but to be honest, I'm predicting when I do a review of this, I'm going to probably say 39 or maybe even 49 might be more reasonable, but 60 seems a little, it's not as polished as it could be. I mean, you know, I'm pretty lenient, you know. After all, you know, I didn't bash Drakengard 3 into the door as, but you know, there are a whole lot of issues in that. But I'm liking it so far. There's a lot of interesting ideas, and I'm looking forward to see the game continue to build on those ideas. Now, a sequel was also announced for this game just like 2 days ago, so that's nice to hear. I definitely hope they'll work on magic more, because the only other thing you get in the game is like a completely new equipment piece. It's a magical gauntlet that has 3 settings. One which just shoots a laser beam at your enemy. Then it has like a projectile shot that works kind of like a shotgun. And then, I forgot what the other one. It has a third setting. I have not used it a lot. To be honest, this game so far to me feels like it focuses a lot more on melee combat, because there's not a lot of spell variety, and most of the spells don't do fantastical things. There's not a lot of variety in the spells, so far it feels like it's very heavy into the combat. And I know Vatty did a video, and he described a lot of the game as being a very heavy, slow-paced Souls experience. That he, like, tried, taking the arm off and rolling. Now, what's funny is, if you watched my playthroughs of the Souls games, I'm usually a very magic ranged person. I'm not going to be shameful and be like, oh yeah, I'm the best Souls person in the world. No, I honestly usually suck at dodging a lot of stuff in the game series. So, I'm not saying I'm completely bad, but I'm obviously not in the part where I'm like taking out, like, I'm not Ouroboros running through the forest killing 3 hackers at huge disadvantage and shit. Like, Ouroboros is like the PvP master, for fuck's sake, that. So I'm definitely not in that level at all in any regards, and I suck at the 4 Kings and Dark Souls, which but I find it actually so far, for the most part, actually a lot easier to dodge, to roll through stuff in Lords of the Fallen. And I feel like maybe it's giving you a lot more of an easier time, maybe a little more invincibility, or maybe just so far there hasn't been anything in general to really challenge that quite much. But I've been keeping myself a little light, like not super heavy, but not super light, I always, like in the Souls games, kept myself in the mid-range, so, I have decent speed, wall, and that, but I have, decent armor to hopefully protect from most shit, so that's been working for the most part, and I've been able to dodge a lot of stuff through rolling and that, a lot more than I usually do in Souls games, to be honest, so I don't know if it has more frames. Maybe somebody from, who's really into the whole frames of the roll animation stuff might be able to throw a little information on that. I know lots of people did that for the Souls games. I don't know if anyone's going to really do a steady on that for this, but it feels like it's a little more forgiving on that. But for the most part, I'm liking it. I'm liking it. I don't think it's awful yet. Again, this is a first impression. And hopefully it'll stay somewhere in that realm, because I would really hate for something really awful to happen, because so far I'm liking the different flavor. But it's clearly not a super polished Souls style game. But it certainly is greatly inspired from it. So I'm hoping by the end I'll think a little more highly of it as versus the opposite. Oh, and also, I haven't gotten to mess with it yet, because I had just met the blacksmith in the game, but apparently also it has a socket system similar to, like, Diablo 2, where you put gems and shit and you can do stuff. And, if it really has a lot of different options, that's also a very nice customization idea. But so far, it's not that they just completely took the whole thing and did nothing. They ingested their own ideas in this, and that's what I find interesting about the game so far. So hopefully I'll have more positive things than that to say when I finish the game. Either way, that's my first impressions of Lords of the Fallen. If you have any questions or anything, please feel free to leave a comment down below, and I would gladly respond to you or try to help answer your question. Ooh, excuse me. Either way, I hope you look forward to the Let's Play of this. I have decided it will be the next main kind of thing after Persona 4 Arena. Plus, the way the PS4 records and that, I always have a decent number of videos built up, so it's always immediately ready to go up right after Persona 4 Arena, which will help me get other editing done. And with the Christmas season coming, that'll also help too. So, either way, thank you for watching. Praise the sun, and hopefully there will be more of the Fallen. Until next time.
This is getting out of hand. The villagers gather in front of the monastery and demand sanctuary. We can't let any more in. We will starve to death. Antanas ordered us to close the gate, and I understand his reasons, but these are people. He's supposed to be the savior.